Hello, everyone. How are you all doing tonight? Welcome to the show. Ashley's running a little bit behind, so just doing a little vamping here, but still wanted to get things started as I am sorting out the social. So, hello. Hey, Ron, what's going on? Thanks for the big hello, Arglass. Hello, how are you doing tonight? So, you got the social out for. There we go. Social out on Twitter. Let me get that put out there on Discord real quick. Let's see here. Get the little announcements going. Live with round 29 preview. Technically a double game week. No. Are we happy calling this a double game week? Like, is that just, I mean, it is, but meh. It's a meh one, isn't it? What do you guys think? Hey, Joe, what up, fantasy people? Can I say that? Do I get it with any kind of copyright thing if I go too bluey on here? Let's see here. What am I doing? What am I doing? Discord. Vamp. Waiting for Ashley. And hey, everyone. Send. All right, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, specifically, Ashley said. She said running about 5 to 10 minutes behind. Start without me. That is what she said. I don't know. Do we appreciate that? I don't know. Well, I'm happy that you have joined us tonight for the show. Like I said, Ashley will be joining us very shortly. Last week, I promised that we would have Matt Pollard on the show. Unfortunately, it turned out that the show overlapped with a commitment that he had for Colorado Rapids, which clearly he was going to go to, especially after being honored with that great award. So Matt is going to join us for our series finale, which should be next week. I'm going to check with everybody after that to see if they want to do it next week or take a week off to just gather themselves and may give us a week break. Since we have this international break thing going on, I may try to line it up with the final games because that could be kind of fun. So 1 to 2 weeks, definitely stay tuned to see more about that. If this is the first time you are joining us on the podcast or the live stream, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us here on YouTube. This is our final round preview. So if you've not played the game before, you've joined in at the very end. Happy to have you for this first round. If you have been playing and just found the show, welcome. We hope that you come back next year. But we come to you live usually on Mondays. But the last couple of weeks we've had some conflicts come up. For me, it was celebrating Baby Rue's birthday. So we had that going on last week, which delayed me getting out the survey, but also going on last week and yesterday. And so it's been fun times. So the last couple days has been Tuesday, but no problem this week because even though it's a double game week, it's a weird one. It's going to be spread over 2 weekends. So it's a strange double game week, but we are definitely live right now, and we'll be doing that. We'll have the announcement of when we're going to be coming in with our final show soon. And hey, look at that. Ashley is joining just in time. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, sir. Nice to see you.
Of course. I just finished with all the vamping, letting people know that unfortunately Matt Pollard could not join us because of some commitments he had to Colorado Rapids. Clearly something he was going to. Yeah, I know, right? Like his real second job, but yeah, some sort of banquet or something. I don't know, whatever. But he will be here for the finale with us, so we'll definitely have him there. He is already booked and punched. He's ready to go. I checked to see if he could make it with our reschedule on Tuesday, but he had some other stuff going on. So it was kind of you got to book him in advance. You got to get Matt in advance.
He's a busy guy. Him and Skylar both. Not that the rest of our friends are not, but those two fellas are busy.
So we've got him, but Ashley's here. We are ready to go. This is going to be super fun. We'll try to focus as much as we can on this final round, but we've still got some important takeaways that we'll get into, and so we'll get started right now.
That doesn't work with my outfit.
Oh, darn. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Double Game Week Round 30, the final round of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by MVP Bickering. It's a yearly tradition. Actually brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Learn more about our project at Patreon over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I've been running from the sickness in my house, but I think
Successfully.
Yeah, I mean, well, so far, a lot of cold and flu season left, but yeah, and tomorrow is my birthday.
Oh, well, very merry on birthday to you. Yesterday was Baby Rue's birthday, so
I knew we were close, I remember, but I couldn't remember how close.
So yeah, that's why we're a little bit different schedule this week, and last week as well. Lots of crazy stuff going on at the end of the season, but happy to be able to come to you all live. Last week was wild. It was the first, or not first, it was the last. Shoo, we're at the end. It was the last legitimate double game week. We'll get into some more of that in a second, but it was the last legitimate double game week, and it was fun. I have to say, it was a lot of fun. Nope, we are not, Ashley. Hold on a second. So, see, I got all into all of this. I can easily, oh my goodness, things are popping up everywhere. So, hold on.
Recording in progress.
So what do y'all think, chat? Should we just do that again? Let's just do it again.
Okay.
The only people who are going to know are the people who watch the video. So sorry, y'all. And biggest apologies to Gene, who was doing everything he could, and Ashley got his back. So that was what it was. So here we go. We're going to do a cut, redo. Good thing we caught it early. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Double Game Week Round 30, the final round of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by MVP Bickering, an end-of-year tradition. Actually brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreons. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Learn more about our project over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. How you doing, Ashley?
I am doing lovely. It's nice to be here with you tonight.
Excellent. So happy to have you here. Fun note for those of you listening to the podcast, this was actually take 2 because I forgot to hit the record button. So there you go. I'm not going to hide it, and you all can enjoy that laughter just like everyone got to enjoy during the live stream as well. So this round 29, the last legitimate double game week that we had. We are coming into round 30. This is the final round, but round 29 was still a lot of fun. There was still a lot on the line, and it's not over yet. So there are a few takeaways that we will cover. Christian was also so nice to send some stuff in. He could not be with us because he hurt his hand over the weekend. Pretty legitimately had to get like stitches in the ER and all that kind of stuff. So it's craziness, but he very much wants to join us for our final year-end podcast. Matt Pollard was supposed to be with us tonight, but he had a conflict with us last night on Monday, but he had a conflict with an event for the Colorado Rapids, so he couldn't come, and we had to switch the podcast anyway, and so it just didn't work out because he's a very, very busy man. But he is going to be coming for our final episode. He is very stoked, and so are we. So that's a lot of just the early stuff, but we want to talk about, Ashley, some of the just initial takeaways from this final round that are going to be important for fantasy managers going into round 30. So how'd you do, and what do you got?
Yeah, these last couple weeks, I'd say like this last month, it's definitely been a crazy week for me, or month for me personally. So I feel like that's affected my game. I've just been overthinking and like playing defensively. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I want to stay where I'm at. Like I've broken into top 10. I've broken, and then just slowly all these things. And so I feel like I'm just not playing genuinely in a combination of that and then just like the hectic, life things that have been getting in the way. Um, so not my best round, but definitely some interesting takeaways. It was really great to hop on with you last week and just go through stuff in the midst of, like I said, a little bit of a stressful, fine, but stressful personal time. A lot of things I feel like we projected either got us through karma, ironically, or just didn't pan out. And let me give you a couple details. Literally at the end of the podcast, I went back and listened to it today to make sure. Someone in chat, and I apologize for not remembering who, had written, "What about Swiderski?" And I had said, and you had, commented in agreements that, you know, I he doesn't he's not consistent enough. The offense isn't consistent enough. He's a great player, but it's hard to know who's going to score with them. He doesn't always start. We it would just seemed like something we didn't want to touch. Well, Swiderski really came in and bagged several goals to show us that we were, sleeping on him. And we expected Charlotte to do something. It's not that we didn't. We just didn't know who it was going to be, right? I notoriously refer to that as the FC Dallas scenario. You know someone's going to score, but who is it going to be? So he definitely came through and showed us what's what. Another conversation that we had going into last round was Seattle defense. On the road, though, do we trust this defensive form? Do we roll the dice with the Sounders, who were doing quite well defensively, even with the two road matchups, two big Western Conference matchups? I ultimately did not. I even actually tinkered out Rusnak, who I had as a bench play for Jordi Mihailovic, who did not really produce, as far as I'm concerned. A 10 on a double game week isn't good. But Seattle, two defenders and Steph Fry coming in on Dream Team, producing quite well in double road. That was honestly a surprise to me. And then one that I think we can all agree on was a real big bummer is Evander. Just not showing up for us, double home, good matchups. I don't ever mind when the Timbers aren't playing well, but I really mind when I'm banking on their main guy and he does not come through. So that was disappointing. I know a lot of people put the armband on him, myself being one of them. It was definitely surprising. And then the last big takeaway I have, I feel like I've kind of leaned into this a little bit the last few weeks because I did take him twice. But Mukhtar's back, guys. Right at the end of the season, when it doesn't matter, Mukhtar's here. They're not going to play, not going to playoffs. There's only one round left. But look at him, player of the round with his point production. So, I mean, I don't really know what to what to take from that, but it was nice to see him, finally contribute.
Yeah, Christian left some notes for this. He mentioned that defenders seem to be his Achilles heel this season. I think that's a big thing for all of us. I didn't get the survey out last because of birthday prep, but that's one of the questions we're asking is about feedback about some of the changes, and defender point changes has definitely been something that people have had to struggle to get used to with this season, and so it's been impactful. He also faded Seattle. I didn't have any Seattle players as well, so that did have some impact. He was surprised about Jordi Mihailovic's response. The Evander cap. Okay, so his comment was the Evander cap was obvious, and I agree. We talked about this with Messi's minutes in question, but apparently Evander didn't agree. What I want to point out is because last week Ashley and I had a great discussion about the fantasy MVP, which if you missed it, you can catch it as a special edition episode I just dropped on SoundCloud for the podcast. That is just that MVP discussion, so you can check that out right there. But I mentioned about Evander's consistency, and one of the only players that has been able to be consistent with this new bonus point scoring system. And so, yes, Evander was not the best captain last round, but his ability to be consistent and have a strong high floor still had him a respectable captain for this round for many people who scored well. And that is, again, to me, leading into the MVP territory. So 2 games of 8, which wanted more, 100% wanted more. But that's why at times people in the past considered captaining like a defensive midfielder who was like, oh, a double game, like let me get 2 games of 8 here. That might balance out someone who gets a big score one week, and then like if I get an 11 one game and a 4 next game, or like Heel got a 10 the first game and a 4 the next game, like my 16 worked out well. So that's the power of that strong floor, and that's what Evander showed us this week. So yes, it was obvious. Messi was riskier, but there's a lot going on there. For me, my takeaways ended up with 191. So really happy with that round. Won a lot of my almost all my head-to-heads. So still, man, you guys had some tough competition, but it won the one that mattered the most. Overall rank went up to 49, which means I'm in the prize money now. That's wild. If people have forgotten, for the regular overall standings, there are prizes for the top 50 players, and then in the Champions League, there are prizes for the top 5 players. In Champions League, I am 18. So 18 overall there, so pleased with that. One thing that happened to me was I did flub my LA Galaxy LAFC defense, because that's who I went in on. I did the Charlotte LAFC switch. Charlotte did not do at all what we wanted in that first round. At least their defense didn't do what we wanted, and so I went with LA. They did well, but I missed that final game because again I was busy on that day, so I missed that final roster, and I had Long as my player, so I missed the first game. Got his clean sheet the next game, but I would have pivoted to Hollingshead had he been there, so I could have had a few more points, but I'm not going to complain because that was a strong game. Had Santi coming off my bench, had Tim Ream that came off my bench as well for the spots there. Did have Pooch, did have Acosta. Flub on defense with Lennon because again played then didn't play. That was a very important game for Atlanta, but we'll get into some more of that coming up next. Other than that, yes, Mukhtar's coming on strong at the end. We'll own up to that. Swiderski was one that I was like, oh, good call from chat. Good call from chat, and that's why we mentioned some of the comments from chat as well. That was, so if you went with Swiderski, well done right there. I didn't have Columbus choking so much against Miami for that, but that was a hugely important game, and Miami is still shooting for the stars. I also want to call out Lewis Morgan. That was someone who was mentioned in chat that we also didn't focus a lot on, and he did very well in that game for the Red Bulls as well. So there are still players who are coming on. The end of the fantasy season is bonkers as we're coming up, but we're seeing some of the rotations as these games are coming to an end, and we're seeing just some of what happens when teams have been eliminated, and that is an even clearer picture now than it was last week. Going over the chat real quick before we get to our housekeeping. Some absolutely fantastic scores we got here. Gene with 184, Arglass with 180. JoJo coming in, hasn't been able to be with us much this season, coming in with a 213-point score, week rank 16. So well done, my friend. Excellent score seeing here. Ron coming in really strong with a 205. Lots of fantastic. Got a 204 here. So lots of fantastic scores in chat. Really happy to see the scores. Really happy to see people enjoying the community, and any little bit of advice that they can take to help their game is also just excellent. Excellent. It makes us very happy to have that. But like I said, a lot of the playoff picture is starting to solidify. Things are still at risk and worth playing for. I think will impact who we see start in these games, and we'll get into that coming up next in our housekeeping section. All right, there we go. Let's see here. Coming up there. Scroll down. I am moving the mic for next season. It is going to be mounted in front of me. The hanging is just not working as well. I feel like it didn't work with the volume. I think the volume's better now when the mic is here, but now it's in the way of the second screen. So it's just not working. So okay, let's see here. Get the social over here. Back to me. And post right there. pop up there? You gonna pop up? Nope. Okay, let me find me real quick. And retweet. All right, so there we have the social out. Again, please be so kind to retweet that, and we'll get started. Hello and welcome back to our housekeeping section for round 30. Quick recap of our MLS Fantasy Boss Pro Rel League updates. This is almost set in stone, so we'll see what ends up happening. Champions League, a good friend Wojo is number 1 right there with a record of 21-0-8. So strong there. That is a prize league, so it'll be points, prizes for first, second, and third. In the Veterans League, good friend Ranch on the show, 22-0-7, leading the league right there. Going to be making his way back to champions. Going down to the Homegrown League, Ashley leading the way, 22-0-7, right in front of Vrooks, right in front of Vrooks. So
that's what I was going to say. There's a couple players in there who just haven't joined our leagues, so you put them in there, but they're like top 15.
It's fine. You got to work your way up. I mean, we honor some of the, like, people come in, you play, you move. That's what all happens right there. And then down in our Discovery League, Trust Your Gut with 25-0-4. So it should be a lot of moving and there. There'll be more information about the Pro Rel Leagues after the season's over and some of the stuff settles down, so we can get all that.
Shout out to Trust My Gut. That's my girl, Andrea.
There you go. Andrea moving up to the Homegrown League next year. So there we go. Moving over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Network of Leagues, Wojo is also leading the Discord head-to-head league right there. Over in the Patreon League, our friend Cam from Discord is leading with a score. Sorry, Jojo had 25-0-4, leading the head-to-head over Discord. The Patreon with Cam, 23-1-5. And then over to the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational, which again is some of the top players, our top patrons. We have a lot of other content creators, a few MLS people who are in there. That has come down. If you missed my tweet earlier this week, Skylar and I are going head to head for the championship game at the Fantasy Insider Experts League. As I said, would this be the year when a past winner could win? It is guaranteed that a past winner will now win the Experts League. I won in 19, Skylar won in 21. So we will see what happened. Skylar beat Ranch by 1 point. They were both tied at 292 at the end of the round, and then Ranch lost a point to J-Rod lost a point, and so he came down. So definitely a VAR moment right there, I think, to see what happened, but set up an epic battle, so looking forward to that one. Very fun. Looking ahead to round 30. Now, this is technically a double game week, but it's also an international break. So if you haven't paid close enough attention yet, games are starting on Saturday. This is not a Wednesday double game week. And there'll be a game on Sunday. And then we'll have a whole week off and games on Saturday again. So there is a lot of time in between this. There is an international break. So there's a lot to take into consideration. So let's break down when those dates are. The beginning of this round starts on Saturday, October 12th. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Columbus versus New England. Then on that Sunday, October 13th at 7:30 p.m. again, Eastern Standard Time, we have Vancouver versus LAFC. Then fast forward to the week after that to Saturday, October 19th. So 6 days later, we have half the games kicking off at 6 o'clock p.m., and half the games kicking off at 9 o'clock p.m. So that is how we are wrapping up the season. We have 4 teams who are on a double. That is New England, Columbus, Vancouver, and LAFC. Of those teams, LAFC is into the final. Vancouver is into the final, guaranteed. The Western Conference is decided. In the East, New England is out. They are not going to be in it. And of course, Columbus is guaranteed that number 2 spot right there. So those double game week teams are pretty secure in where they are at. They also have some people who will be missing due to international call-ups that are also going to be going on during this time. But important note, Toronto's on a bye. So their season is done. It is already done. And they are excellent for your switcheroos. But yes, Toronto is on a bye. So done and donezo. As far as who has something to play for. I want to get to this before we touch on the international break. I mentioned that those teams were already in. DC and Montreal are currently, as I said, Western Conference is already settled, but the East is not. DC and Montreal are currently in the playoff game, as are Philly, and Philly and Atlanta are playing to get a spot. So if Philadelphia and Atlanta both win, they have the potential to just unseat DC or Montreal. Atlanta, I believe, has the best chance based on their goal differential. I think they have a positive 8 goal differential, and that is the first tiebreaker after wins. So, or after points. It's points, then wins, and I think if those teams win, they'll have the same number of wins, and then it's goal differential. So there is a chance that Philly or Atlanta could jump into that wild card spot to have a play-in for the Cup. So a lot still going on for these 4 teams, and 2 of those teams play each other. So it's going to be a crazy game. So there are still those 4 teams with things to play for. Everything else is decided from there as far as the West. Let's move into. Go ahead.
I want to point out very quickly, though, Christian referenced this, and I had it in my notes for player picks later. But I'm wondering if the hurricane situation will affect the Orlando Atlanta game. I don't know the timing of these things, or what's forecasted for when. But it could be a situation where Atlanta doesn't get to play on that. Do you know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do with the weather situation. I don't know if they would play it later, if they can play it later, or if they would try to relocate. You would think they'd have. I don't know. I don't recall there being a scenario.
It's serious.
Yeah, I don't recall a scenario where this has happened before, where there's been something at the end of the season and potentially we couldn't reschedule. I mean.
It's just something to pay attention to.
Yeah, we absolutely probably could, because that Atlanta game is very important. I double-checked right now. Philly has the +8 goal differential, so they are in the better spot to be able to play in. But Atlanta has a -4, which is better than DC and Montreal, so the win could be huge for them as well in that. I mean, maybe they'll swap it up to a neutral stadium just to be safe as we get closer to there. So who knows? Who knows what will happen? But yes, do stay tuned for that. Plug on the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord channel. Our good friend Throninator does keep up with weather updates, and so we do post those things.
He's amazing.
Yeah. He is fantastic, and so we do have our very own meteorologist at the Fantasy Boss Discord, so you can keep up with some of those weather impact potential right there. But that clearly, the ability to have a soccer game is not what's important about this weather, this storm. We hope for every one of our listeners and just all of our friends and all the players and everyone in that pathway are able to be safe during that time. And so that is what's paramount when we're thinking about that. Going on to talking about this international break. So Columbus is going to be missing Cucho, Schulte, Harbone, and Farsi. So some significant losses right there. LAFC missing Bowanga, Campos, Chanot, Martinez, and Oliveira. New England is missing a few people. You can check it out. I don't think it's huge impact of what we're looking at for fantasy wise. Their new D mid and their new left back are going to be missing. So maybe some questions about Yusuf and Miller. Maybe some questions about their defensive solidity. Though, did we rely on them anyway? I don't know. And then Vancouver is missing Adekumbe, Ahmed Kubas, Gald, Fafapico, and Vite. So a lot of people missing for Vancouver as well. Important thing to remember, it is very likely that this international break will only affect this first week, and most, if not all, these players will be back for the second week. So for many of these players, you still are looking at the potential of them having a single game week, but that will depend upon where their teams are and if their coaches want to do rest and preparing for the Cup. So, but there will be some significant absences for all these teams, which impact, I think, who you would normally be leaning to with this double game week schedule, especially for a team like Columbus or LAFC. Going down to suspensions real quick, we do have some. We have Brio from Austin who got a red card. We have, let's see here, Danny Pereira with Austin on a yellow card accumulation. Navarro with Chicago on yellow card accumulation. Escobar got 2 yellow cards from Houston. Saliba with Montreal, yellow card accumulation. Cartagena with Orlando, yellow card accumulation. And Kamal Miller with Portland, yellow card accumulation. People on warnings, doesn't matter. Everybody who's on a yellow card warning has been called up, and so it's not important. You don't have to worry about that. Injury watch. Heel came off injured on Saturday. That's probably the biggest news to keep up with. He's been a player who has been in many teams that I've seen drafts pop up so far. Please do keep in mind that he did come off injured, and so if you do have him, he will likely need to be a bench play, or you will need to have a backup play for him. Ashley, anything mentioned in chat that Paintsil came off injured as well during that LA game. So that's an important game for LA. We'll get to that in just a second. So anything else you want to add, Ashley?
I mean, no, I just, I think it's important to emphasize what you already said, which is there's 4 teams, Eastern Conference teams, that are really playing for it. There are a handful of teams in the West who are playing for position, but have already clinched. And so I personally like to try to highlight those games at this point in the season, because I think that often, you get concentrated player production based on those situations.
Yeah, I will mention that. I mean, that's Vancouver and Portland. They're definitely playing to get out of that play-in, that wild card game. Vancouver, it could bump up Minnesota, and Minnesota's really the one that's at risk. Colorado's probably pretty good, though they could potentially, if both Portland and Vancouver bumped up, then that could push down Colorado and Minnesota. So those would be the 4 teams to look at there. And of course, Vancouver does have that double, so they could definitely jump up a bunch if they have a good score.
Yeah, and then both the LA teams, depending on results.
Yeah.
Flip-flop.
Yeah, the win for LA Galaxy secures the number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Though it would depend on the goal differential for LAFC, but they've got 2 games in hand. So that if they win both, they should be tied on points, assuming LA Galaxy loses. And that's going to depend upon goal differential. So lots of crazy stuff going on right there. So check out the standings page, the conference standings. If you scroll down, you can see the tiebreakers. That's where it all breaks it down. Most of this should be decided based on goal differential. Goals for per match. So that's and goal differential. So check it all out. Number 1, number 2. They have 9 different things. The last one being a coin toss, which I don't know if it's ever gotten that far.
I hope so.
All right, well, that's the housekeeping that we have. We'll touch on some of these same themes again in our player target section coming up right after this. Okay, get that right here. Go to the social. Looking around the microphone, so stupid. So stupid. Reid, why didn't you just change it this year for the last few episodes? Because I got busy. That's why. That's why I didn't do it. It does. All right. Socials out. Again, please retweet. Coming into the final segment right here. Should be a lot of fun. What we got going on? I missed something. Someone came in late. I saw someone who came in late. There we go. Kingdom 203. Nice score. Congrats. Hello and welcome back to our final segment for this round 30 preview. The players who we are targeting going into this technically double game week for the final round of the 2024 fantasy season. Starting off as always with keepers and defenders. Ashley, who are you looking at?
Yeah, we will discuss this. I am struggling with the double aspect of this week.
Yep.
Because of the international duties, right? So I'm really struggling to pick a keeper. I want to go LAFC, but I don't know. I don't really trust a lot of the double game weeks because I don't trust Vancouver to keep a shutout, both if not any individual time. The Columbus keeper will be a backup because Schulte will be back for the second game. New England isn't a team. I don't
We
even know who
assume.
we assume, yes. New England isn't a team I've ever picked defensively this year, right? And so if you want to go with a double, that just leaves Lloris, who has been okay and has San Jose at home for their final game, which feels nice. But then that eliminates your ability to pivot to a single game week keeper.
Yep.
So I definitely think there's some good single game week keepers on the docket. I just don't know which one which one I like. So I apologize. I'm not really giving a good answer. I think I might just roll Lloris. Just Skylar's two bites at the apple is just playing in the back of my head, but
Yep.
it's not something I feel super confident in, if that makes sense. Um, for defenders, I'm definitely still gonna lean Columbus. I think that Amundsen is a safer bet. I haven't picked Hollingshead yet this season. I've leaned long, but I might go back to Hollingshead. I think an LAFC defender is a decent shout. I have liked. Oh, I wish Tyler was here. Veselinovic.
Sure.
But I don't know that I like Vancouver's matchups enough for the double, which is, I feel like I'm just kind of like looking at names at this point, right? I also, I want to pick the Sounders, but there's this stat I know too well as a Sounders fan, which is the home team is hardly ever, I think it's like two times, has ever not been scored on and also generally loses between the Sounders and the Timbers. So even though they've been so consistent, especially at home, do I want to mess with that, you know, consistency? What's more consistent, their defensive form or that, decade long stat? So it's tricky. I think that there's a couple single game week options that, could be decent. I think that Inter Miami, possibly, but I feel like they're gonna rotate because they've already clinched. They won the Shield last week, right? So it would be smart to bench all
But
those. What?
but they could get the single highest scoring
You're
point
right.
total
I
if
did
they
forget
win.
about that. They'll have to win. You're right. You're right. You're right. I don't know. I still don't know if I if I feel confident enough in that. And then I'd also kind of like to go Philly because FC Cincinnati's been struggling to score, but Philadelphia's been struggling with shutouts. So this is a tougher keeper and defender week for me. What do you like?
No, I 100% agree with your sentiment right there. So Christian's looking at a New England keeperoo. So he's going New England to Orlando. That's what he's looking.
Yeah, he's New England to Minnesota.
Oh no, you're right. He is in Minnesota. That's right. He's going to England to Minnesota for that St. Louis game with St. Louis, has had struggles as well, and that's the 9 o'clock game. As far as the double game week options, you are correct. If you go with New England, you have the ability to get a single game week keeper. If you go with Lloris, you do not have that option. You could also do both, since this is a Saturday Sunday matchup. So you could always put New England on your bench, see how that game goes. It's against Columbus, who's missing Cucho. Rossi is not the prolific scorer that Cucho is with Cucho not there. I know a lot of us went that during a double game week where Cucho came back and got big points in his second game, and Rossi didn't do anything. So it's not guaranteed that Columbus will score, but it's dangerous because I don't think any of us really trust New England with a clean sheet. But you could do that and have a shot at New England. Then you could go with Lloris for that second game. I think everyone likes that against that Vancouver team when they still have White, but they're missing so much from Vancouver that people are leaning towards LAFC, and I tend to do that as well for this, with the ability to still have that weaker San Jose game. So if you wanted to, you could get that. if you wanted to go both doubles. I honestly have not decided yet if I'm going to do that or not. Lloris is my favorite of the two keepers that are right there. After that, I've seen Freese there. I worry about Montreal. You had Martinez who got that brace during the double last week. Montreal has something to play for sure for this game, so they're going to be coming all out. They're playing against New York City FC, who also has something to play for in this game. So both of those teams you can expect to have their best lineups in the game, and so there could be goals on both sides. I've not always relied on the New York City FC defense, especially on the road in Montreal with that.
Yeah.
No trust there with the Chicago matchup. No trust with the DC matchup. I mean, I think Charlotte has shown us that they've got some offensive power right there. We've never trusted DC. And Benteke is getting that golden boot. And so this is just another opportunity for him to increase that tally. And Charlotte gave up a lot last week. Inter Miami could be a wild card there if you wanted to look at that as a single game week team. Like I said, they're playing for the highest points in a season, and so New England is weak, could be missing Heel. That could be a very strong or maybe a B plus team. I don't know. I think we would still see a strong Miami team that starts on that game. So you could look for something with that. Going down from there, it starts to get a bit more questionable. Maybe you get something in Dallas. I mean, Sporting Kansas City's not been doing well, but there's so many question marks with those teams both being out. I don't know what's going on right there. We don't tend to like to depend upon LA Galaxy as a keeper, so it definitely gets slimmer and slimmer with the pickings. Minnesota is a fun shout out though to go for that, since they do also need to keep their clean sheet to try to hold on to those points to secure their padding in the West for their spot. So you do have some options. I think that covers a lot of them. But it's really going to come down to which you need to have a double game week keeper. I would not just do 2 rotations on Saturday with a single game week. You need to have at least one of the double game week keepers to go from there. So it's just going to come down to. As far as defenders go, going back again to Christian, he's looking at Amundsen, Camacho, and Hollingshead. So he's doubling up there with Columbus. That's risky. We've seen a lot of rotation with Columbus, and so 2 could be too many for Columbus right there. For me, just right at the beginning, I think I'd like to have someone from Columbus. There's a chance that maybe someone does. It'll probably be on my bench. I don't know. But Columbus has some good options. I think you just got to pick someone from that first match and look at their history, see what happens. Go from there. I mean, maybe it is Amundsen, maybe it is Camacho, but you're probably just going to have to pick one and then roll with it and just see what happens. After that, I think Alba is someone that could be locked in. Again, that's an important game, so there's an easy single game week keeper that I think has some potential, because I don't know that I like 3 double game week keepers enough, because the third one would be Vancouver, and I do question what Vancouver can do and if that's going to be on par with a single game week keeper right there. And for LAFC, I'm sort of in the same boat as Columbus. I'll probably take them. Again, I like the double matchup. Probably just whoever starts, being Hollingshead, be it Long, just whatever is right there. Whoever seems like they have a more consistent chance of playing. At the end, I may just roll with 3 defenders, and it may be 3 double game week players just because they have 2 shots. Even if they don't score great in one round, they still have 2 shots to try to pad onto that score. And I may just scrub 2 and go with my bench and just say that's a crapshoot for defenders. Let's just open those spots up. Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. As I've said, I know you said a couple times like, yep. I was like, you got a comment? Is it going to pop in right there? Let's see.
Let's pick one.
Yeah, Christian says that he's looking at a 5-3-2 auto-roo.
Okay.
So for the back, so that's what he's going to be running with 2 scrubs right there then. Let's move on to midfielders. Ashley, who do you have?
This was a little more straightforward for me. I mean, there's definitely a couple of question marks based on who I want. I am a masochist, so I put Rusnak and Evander right into my team. Though that is a game. I mean, to have a derby game be the decision day game is fantastic, right? So, Seattle has a little bit to play for sure. Portland a little more so, and there's Cascadia Cup on the line in this matchup. So both of those players, Evander's going to look. The Timbers in general, I would assume, are going to look to bounce back from the relatively poor double game week performance that they had. So I don't consider that a slump for him. I think that he'll have a good shot this week. And then Bogusz. Those three were first in my team, absolute locks. Um, because he's the player I think, will should produce the most in this double game week, assuming he still starts for LAFC. And then I kind of just have a list that I'm considering. Is Heel fit enough to start? They really need this. If he is, do I put him on the bench? Gazdag, like I said earlier, Philadelphia really need this, and they're playing at home. Is this a game where he produces? There obviously are weather concerns in Orlando. Prior to this game, I really like Torres in this matchup. But, again, that's something to kind of watch. So I have a couple of question marks and 3 locked in. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, looking at the notes that Heel had, or that Christian had, Heel if he starts, Bogusz, O'Brien, Pooch, Resnick, Evander, Armstrong, Berhalter, maybe Lucho, maybe Mukhtar, Chambost, and Arfson. He's got a lot of names thrown out there. I'll mention some of those as well. For me, Bogusz is for sure. I mean, he's a double game week player. The only one that I feel confident about playing 2 games, and so he's the for sure one that I have. Yeah, well, of course, that's what it is. After that, I mean, I'm looking at Pooch as that number 2 player, just because LA Galaxy still have a lot to play for this. They want to keep first place, and so they need to do well in this game. And so I'm looking at Pooch coming in there as well. The heel injury, something to keep in mind. He got a 10 and a 4 last week, so definitely someone who could compete with even a middle of the road performance, and to see what happens for them right there. You covered Rusnak and Evander really well. I mean, I think that's definitely in play. I don't want to sleep though on Gazdag. I mean, again, Philly is playing in. Cincinnati has not been doing well defensively. Very, very much a struggle bus for Cincinnati right there. Gazdag has had some consistency issues himself, but that's basically acknowledging just the weakness at Cincy's defense for where he could take advantage, at least generate some of those bonus points right there. I like the mention that Christian has for Chambost. He had the most minutes of his time yet with Columbus last week. Before last week, I don't know if he even broke 20 minutes in a game. He had, I think, in the 80s, 70 or 80s last week, 2 assists. So that could be a sneaky pick right there for some Columbus coverage that you could have. And going back to Bogusz real quick, he's the reason I don't think you double up with an LAFC defense. I mean, I think you want Bogusz this round. But Chambost is a nice little pick. We already mentioned how Mukhtar's coming on, but it's at the very end of the season. So is he going to come up there to just show Bob Bradley what he's got to do for, not Bob Bradley, what am I talking about? Craig Berhalter, the other bald guy who's going to come coach Chicago.
I just internalized a lot.
It's funny. It's okay. That's okay. Is he going to come up there and just be like, just to put to shame the team before Berhalter comes in there to put him up? I don't know. There's a lot of risk right there with Mukhtar, but I can see why you're there. And the same reasons we were talking about the teams who have something to play for. Santi comes to mind. Again, had a fantastic week last round. They're trying to get 4th. Orlando's trying to keep 4th against Atlanta. So there's a lot going on right there. So I think you have some interesting single game week midfielder options in the games where they have something to play for. That could be some nice differentials and could set you apart in some of your head-to-heads this week that you can take a look at. Let's go to chat real quick. Let's see what's popping up. But Rusnak, Evander, really common. Let's see here. Drusi, new coach. Hadn't thought about that. Don't
They're
care.
so fun.
Don't
Like,
care for Austin enough to even begin to think
yeah,
about that. But that's a fun thing to mention. I think I've liked everybody else that we've talked about more though.
I do too. Yeah.
I mean, and does he even want to be there? Like, was it just the coach that he didn't like, or does he just want a whole new city, whole new team, whole new start? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who
Hard
knows?
to say.
Let's
Yeah.
see with that. All right, let's move on to talking about forwards. Ashley, who do you have?
Yeah, so I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit here. I want Rossi. I don't really trust. I mean, the last time they had a double game week, we all freaked out and didn't know what to do because Kucha was on the bench, and then Rossi and Kucha basically fully alternated for 45 minutes. Kucha's not going to be there, so I have to think that that is not how that will play out this double game week. But who knows? I have Rossi. He's in my team. I'm gonna trust that he'll go both. And then I know this is Homer, and I do try to avoid it. I actually feel like I'm normally a little more anti Seattle than pro, but Jordan Morris has 7 goal contributions in the last 8 games. This is his most productive season ever as a Sounder, especially at home. Portland is a relatively shaken team. There are always goals in this game, in this matchup, I should say. And it's at home for Jordan Morris. I like him. Now, are there better strikers this week? Probably. But right now, I have him in my team. I like Benteke. Think I like White. I like Giroux if I can fit him into my team, if that makes sense. If I see Messi starting, obviously I am also starting Messi, but I tend to assume, which again, you know what they say about people who assume, but I tend to assume they will rest he and Suarez and Alba because of, their age in the playoffs. Like they won the Shield, now they want to win the Cup, right? So I don't know that they'll start. If he starts, he's in my team, obviously, with that matchup. But I also, I think Peck's a good shout. I like what you're saying about Galaxy and what they need to do in Houston. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of third options for me, but I just can't quite decide what to land on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned Miami right there.
Yeah.
Do you think they really rest the whole game when they have a shot at the points record?
I
Or are you feeling like 45-45?
I think points record compared to healthy. I mean, Tata hasn't hesitated to rotate several times this year, and not because of injury, right? So they didn't play the full game in Toronto, right? Both Messi and Suarez subbed in that game, so I guess that is some rest. And then they're going to have a week of rest because they don't play until next weekend. So I don't know. Maybe they do play. I just feel like with the injury history, I don't know. But like I said, if they're in my team. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pull them at half or sub them in at half, if you will, just because of the playoff implications. But they're also obviously going to get that first round bye. So who knows?
Right, and round one is best of 3. So
Yep.
that kicks off on the 25th, and the conference semifinals start right there. So Suarez did only play a few minutes in that last double game week round last week. I think you're right. It's an important game, and I think it's recognition that they would like to have, and this is probably the best chance that they have to get it. And I say all of that leading into, I'll do Christian's thoughts first. Christian's thoughts for forwards. He's got Rossi, Yeboah, and White is who he has. Then maybe Messi, maybe Veroni, and maybe Ramirez. So I say all of that to go with I would like to have a Miami forward for this round. If it's Messi, it's Messi. If it's Suarez and Messi's on the bench, I'd probably go Suarez. I would expect to see Messi come in during this game to at least play some, especially with this record possible for them. But I would probably go with the first player of those games to see what happens right there, because I just don't trust New England to be solid at all with that. And so I would, at this point, I would like to have Miami forward. I totally understand having Rossi trying to get that 2 bites at the apple. He's got a good shot. He's not always had the production that we would like to see from him during this time, but I mean, I definitely make sense why he's there. And so it's really that third forward as the spot. I think if you go with White, you need to put him on the bench because it's going to really mess with some of your hopes and dreams and wishes if you're going to be leaning into the LAFC defense. Him being successful is going to be that 2 sides of the coin for you. So I think you want him on your bench to see where that happens. The Sounders pick is interesting. I had not thought about that one myself. I don't care for New England with the offense right there. The interesting pick that's not been on our list yet that I do like from chat that Gene mentioned is Alonso Martinez from New York City FC. Been doing very well for them. I think that could be a very under the radar pick. Because again, Montreal's defense not been solid. So I could definitely see goals on both sides of that game right there. So
more solid though, Montreal.
True,
right?
True, but still. And then Christian just shared in chat that he read an article saying that Messi and company want to play, which makes sense to me. I mean, this. I mean, they've got the hardware, they've got the silverware. That's great. This is also a chance to shatter the record. Maybe not shatter, to break the record. So they could get there, get that, just something else, because we know this team's going to start to be dismantled. Maybe not dismantle is the right word. It's going to start to fall apart after this. And so this is their chance to go for as much as possible. And this is a big one. I mean, this is a tough one to get. And so
get it at home through the duration of playoffs.
Exactly.
So
huge importance right there. So a lot of options there. I think it makes sense to have 1 or 2 double game week forwards this round. We didn't mention Benteke. I mean, again, he's playing at home. Or did you mention him? Okay, I was looking at the chat then. I get that one as well. And so it's just going to come down to some of those differentials right there and to see where we go. But for me, I like Miami as at least one of those double game weeks right there. All right. Let's wrap things up with captain. Ashley, it looks like all 3 of us are in consensus. Who are you going to say?
I'm leaning Bogusz because of the double game week situation. I think that's what stands out for me. But it feels safe. Yeah. I like that.
So this is my thought. I know all year long I have been the voice that has said, all right, if not him, then who? Who are you going to go with? It's risky this week because he is the only double game week player who I feel good about to see 2 games. I hope he gets 180, but he's the only player who I feel good about with that. Don't trust Heel, don't trust Lavis. If you're not going with him, are you going to take a flyer on Rossi? I don't think he's had the consistency that you want. The defense is far too volatile to want to do some sort of weird captain pick right there. The single game week players are at a disadvantage. I don't know if none of these games jump out to me as saying like this is just a goal fest for insert player here on a single game week to tear up. It could happen, but they don't scream that to me just from looking at it. So I mean, Bogusz is. I would be shocked if he's not the number 1 chalk pick for that. People could throw a flyer if you see Messi start. I mean, maybe that, but you won't. You won't get to see that. You will have to miss out on all your double game week players. But if you feel strongly about this, then you could go with a Messi. You could go with a Suarez, who's done it well at times. You could go crazy and start Cucho, expecting him to come back in for that second game. all of those
Yep.
things are far too risky. And so I struggle to find really a viable number 2 after Bogusz. I think I would have to say Rossi would be the
Sure.
number 2 captain, but I don't feel good about that.
Me neither. Not at all.
Going to chat real quick. Joseph Martinez, you are lying, sir. You are lying that is going to be your captain. No way. And Gina agrees with Bogusz. So yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. This is I look forward to seeing if other people have other options. Put them in the comments below. Send them to us on Twitter. And let me know your reasoning, because this one just seems very slim pickings just with the options. Maybe it's Swiderski. Maybe he's going to go get a hat trick this time. Who knows what happens?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. Brad goes on with the PK stop and a goal. So let's see what happens with the
Crazier
crazy
things happen.
right there. So, all right. Well, that's all that we have for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for our last round preview. We will be coming back to you with one more episode this week. I will tweet out when the time is. There is a chance that we will not do it next week, but maybe wait 1 week to kind of align with this game schedule that we have with our 2-week game week 30 round. But we will come out here with we'll have the survey posted. We'll get the feedback. We have sent the survey out for also, this is a special treat that we're going to have, not just the fantasy feedback survey, but I have sent out a survey for fantasy player awards. So similar to what they're doing with MLS, but all fantasy focused. Just basic right now: keeper, defender, midfielder, forward of the year, that MVP, that kind of thing right there. That survey is going out to our top patrons, going out to top members of our Discord community, and going out to other fantasy MLS content creators as well. So trying to be something similar to what happens with the MLS awards, but we're trying to get that feedback, and we'll also announce those awards during our final show in a couple of weeks, a week or so. That will be posted on there. But again, thank you so much for everyone who's listening. Let's sign off everything with our plugs. Ashley.
I'm just gonna plug Discord. It's been such a supportive, amazing, collaborative place this season, as it always is. It's nice to see it grow and conversations stay civil and people be supportive. And so, just to plug that it's so this game is so fun to just play in general, but to have that sort of community alongside it is so helpful and so great. So just a plug to the Discord.
Yeah, the Discord has been amazing. Absolutely check that out. Keep going there over the offseason as well. I mean, we'll have some stuff for the MLS Cup brackets that they always do, but keep checking out that community. So much fun right there. MLSFantasyBoss.com. I know sometimes the turnaround times have been tough to get the articles up. We're going to be looking at that over the offseason for sure to see about some more help, but check that out. That's where everything gets deposited, as well as just the Patreon to find out how you can help be a part of our community right here. And swag will be going out again. Been a little bit hard to get the schedule out this year with work, but still have the list, still getting everything out there. So that is going to be on its way to everyone who has contributed. So appreciate it so much. But yep, the last round's here. We look forward to everything that's going to happen. And as always, good luck. And in stream.